Hello, thank you all for coming. So we'll be starting shortly, probably at 12:10 UT time. So after the workshop, you'll be able to enter our call for circles, design artwork for the mural. We'll go into more detail later, and we also have more public programming coming later this year. Yeah, thank you for being here. So thank you all for coming. So we'll begin. So this is the Duality Teachings Artist Workshop with Q-Rock, who's here with us today. This is the third and last one in this series, but the recordings will be made available shortly. Yes. We wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates for thousands of years has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land with Indigenous community members. We encourage all of you to learn the history of the land that you currently call home, and we're grateful for all those who come before us. Not only humans, but also animals and plants and the space around us. So yeah, thank you. So this is just image of the mural proposal that Q sent in, and then the real mural, which looks pretty great in person. So hopefully you get a chance to see that, especially now that the weather is nicer. Some of the red dots that were put up by students in Q. The mural at night. Yeah, some more shots. So yeah, that is extended. But yeah, without further ado, Q.
Thank you, Chamigwech. Today is a conclusion of a workshop series that I put together for um, for educational purposes and also for sharing to help just kind of give people some education on like the way that the Anishinaabe people, the way that we live, our value system, some of the tools that we've used for thousands of years here on Turtle Island. And the first two workshops that I shared, the first one was the medicine wheel teachings. And I shared several layers of the medicine wheel, all like fundamental, like 101 introduction. And then I also shared the seven grandfather teachings and seven generation thinking. Today's workshop is actually the Anishinaabe creation story. Now, the reason why I called it Duality Teachings is because of the consistency of polarity of life, the balance of life. It always has the feminine and the masculine as one life. And all life is like that, including me. When I was first created, I was a female egg. And then I became a male later. So the teachings that I'm going to share with you today are from the actual area of the Great Lakes. I'm Anishinabe. I'm from Nibesing First Nation. Nibesing is near North Bay, Ontario, if you're not familiar. And there's a lake there called Lake Nipissing. Nipissing is the French way of pronouncing the word, Nibesing. And the story I'm about to share with you today was a story that has always been shared with me around sacred fires, and it's the creation story of the Anishinaabe people. So just to give you a geographical area, the location of this story is based off of Turtle Island and the Great Lakes, the surrounding areas. The nation that I'm from is called the Anishinabe Nation, and I'm part of the Three Fires Confederacy, which is between the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Bode Otomi. These three are the Three Fire Confederacies of the Anishinaabe people. And so this story is going to be based off of the Anishinaabe people from this area. The reason why I'm explaining this is because there are many different creation stories, and all of them are right. There isn't a wrong or a right in our culture. It's depending on where you're from. The creation stories are very much a part of that environment. That's where you're in. The Anishinaabe people believe our culture comes from the land. It's not just made up. It's thousands of years of observation and following our original instructions. So today's story is based off of the Anishinaabe creation story. This is my first time ever sharing this story. I've always heard it and never told it. So I'm a bit nervous about sharing it, but it's exciting. It's more of excitement because this is my first time doing this. And it's also the conclusion of these workshops, which has been an overwhelmingly amazing experience for me to be on a platform. So I'd like to thank everyone at the University of Toronto, the Daniels Building, all the team that I've been part of, how they've been able to facilitate these workshops and allow me to have an opportunity to share not only my artwork, but also some of my cultural teachings and stories. So I will begin this story with the creation of there being nothing at all. It was complete darkness. And this is when the story begins, is in total darkness. And there was nothing that existed, nothing. And in the middle of this darkness, there was all of a sudden a very tiny little spark. And that spark became an awareness. And that awareness eventually became the creator. When she looked around, she noticed that there was absolutely nothing but darkness in every direction she looked. No matter where she looked, all she saw was darkness. And so she began to put her thoughts out. And when her thoughts went out, they appeared as light. And this light started to go and keep going and just not stop. It never stopped. It just kept going and going and going. And so when she sent her thoughts out, there were many different thoughts that she had that appeared as this light, this divine light, this light that was like essentially like expanding and just going and going. And as it traveled through the darkness, one of the things that she noticed right away was her thoughts weren't coming back. And they never came back. She waited and they just kept going and going and going. And so because nothing was happening, she got bored and she took a nap. And while she was sleeping, she dreamt of all these things, all of like everything, like both small and the great things like the sun and the moon and all the stars. And when she was dreaming this, it was like it was creation dreaming of creations. You'll notice that while I'm sharing, there's always a duality, a cause and effect of everything. And there's a constant pairing happening. I want you to pay attention to these because these are all of the duality teachings. So when she dreamt of everything. She dreamt of like galaxies, like the universes. She dreamt of it all the things that are out there that we can see and that we can't see. So when she woke up, she began to gather her thoughts and collect them and bring them back. And while she was gathering her thoughts, she changed those thoughts into energy and matter, another duality teaching. And she created the first 4 elements, which is the earth nation, the air nation, water nation, and the fire nation. And in my language, earth, we say Aki for earth. We say Nodin for the air. We say Nibi, which is where I'm from. I'm from Nibesing, which is the water nation, and Shkode, which is the fire nation. So the creator took a small piece of her spirit and she infused each element with a piece of her spirit to give it life. Then instantly the elements were alive. And that's when the spirit of the 4 winds came alive. The 4 winds are sisters. The east, we know it in English, we know these words as the east, the west, the south, and the north. And those elements actually, when they were first created, they didn't get along. They all fought with each other. And the creator actually had to like intervene and ask them, hey, you guys need to get along. Like, stop this fighting. But the elements couldn't. They just couldn't. They had to. It was almost like they had to confront each other or can have confrontation with each other. But they were actually fighting. So the creator gave all of the elements, the 4 elements, she gave them original instructions. And their original instructions for the 4 elements is to provide nourishment for all that, for all of those that follow. And so the elements began to work with each other now, because they had instructions they had to follow. And they then came together, and that's when they formed this perfect circle that we call Mother Earth. This all happened, by the way, in one day. This was the end of the first day, which is amazing to me. It's a lot of stuff going on. I thought I had busy days. So when they came together, that's the first world. It's in Anishinabe, we believe there are 4 layers of the world, and this is the first world, the very first world created. So this was the end of the first day, and this is the time again when the creator decided, okay, that's a lot of work, she said. I'm going to take a nap. So she rested again. And kind of like the world itself at that time, when the elements were working together and came together, it was barren. There was nothing there except for the elements. So in a sense, it was kind of lifeless. Although that the life was there from the elements, there was no other life. It was just them and the Great Spirit. And she was in the process still of the creations. She was still creating. So as she rested on this second day, on the second night, or no, this is the second dream. She basically dreamed of this world, but now she dreamt of it filled with green, all the plant nation. And she just was visioning in her dream. She was visioning a life filled with abundance, like way more than anyone or anything could ever need. But it was just abundance of green, abundance of the plant nation, essentially. And when she woke up, it was now the second day. And so she, again, gathered her thoughts, and she gave the plant nation their original instructions. And so their instructions is somewhat similar to the elements instructions, which was, it was to provide nourishment, provide healing, provide growth for all those to follow. And so now the second night came, and the creator went back to sleep again. And the second world is the world of the plant nation. It's almost as if in each day she created another layer of the world, another world within itself. And this is where the duality teachings is really important to be conscious of, because now what you're learning is circular thinking and cause and effect thinking. It's really deep in my culture, in the Anishinabe, that we're always concerned about how our choices are going to affect our future, how they are going to affect the present moment, and what would have our ancestors have done if given the same choices. And so this way of thinking, it's very much the foundation of the Anishinabe nation, especially where I'm from, because the story I'm telling you is the story that was told to me, and it pertains to our area, which is Nambesing. So the next day, the creator began to, I forgot that when she dreamt, this time when she went to sleep, she now dreamt of a lot of creatures, for lack of better words. But she dreamt of like everything, like all the other nations that are here. And it's not just to the animal nation. It is the insect nation, the fish nation, the bird nation, and the animal nation. These were the nations that came next. And so when she woke up, she began to gather her thoughts again. And she gave them, all these creatures, original instructions. And this is on the third day. And again, the instructions are to provide us with teachings, with growth, and also with connecting us to who we are. And so it was on this day was essentially the animal nation, the plant nation now, and the elements are all now coinciding together and existing together now. And so the instructions were given to all of the creatures to be teachers. And they didn't know what they were going to be teachers for yet, though. But they just knew that these were the instructions that their nations were given. And so the creator, like how she did with the elements, she took a piece of her spirit and she infused every single little creature, everything created from that point. She infused her spirit in all of these things that she was creating. And this was so that everything that is created will always remain connected. There's an Anishinaabe saying that all things are connected. And when I pray, I always acknowledge, there's a word we say, it's Indane Wama Ganade. That word translates to all of my relatives, which are all of the things that I've just been saying to you. These are all the Anishinabe's relatives. They're our family that came before us. And so once she infused her spirit into everything, she then decided again that it was time for her to go to sleep, have a nap, get some rest. She's been doing a lot of work. That's a lot of stuff to be created. She created 3 worlds in 3 days. And so on the 4th day, when she woke up, she had dreamt the night before of a being that resembled her. She dreamt of something that looked just like her. And so when she woke up, she created the first Anishinabe. Now, the first Anishinaabe person's name, her name is Winona. And to me, this is such a beautiful story because, like, from this point forward, there had been what we call the original 6 nations, or the original 5 nations. But now when the human nations created, it adds a 6th nation to creations. And creations was existing in balance by the creator's understanding of how life works and creating those polarity teachings, the duality of all things. And so when the creator named her Winona, did I say it right? Did I say Winona? I always get Winona and Wyoming mixed up. There's very close words right there. So Winona, after she was created, the creator infused her with a small piece of her spirit. And that's when the creator breathed life into her. And the creator, after putting a piece of her spirit into her and after breathing some life into her, when this was happening, when Winona saw this, what was happening to her after she was created, when she looked at the great mystery, she saw a divine light. It was like a light that no human can really like fathom what this kind of light is like. And that's when Gijek Manadu basically lowered Winona from the sky to Mother Earth, to Turtle Island here. And when she was lowering her, if you could imagine you're being lowered down, right? Like you're coming down from the sky, and you're looking at everything, right? And the first thing that you're going to touch, the first thing that's going to hit the ground when you hit the ground is going to be your feet. So when Nona was coming down and she can see all these things, her once her feet touched Aki, like the earth nation, she felt an instant connection to the earth. And there's a word in Anishinabe that's I don't know if I'm going to say it right. It's bidmadzep, I think, which means walk gentle or walking gentle. But I'm from Nibesing. Nibesing has we all do. All Anishinaabe tribes have very unique dialects, ways that we speak Anishinaabe, but there are slight, subtle pronunciation difference. And I may not be pronouncing that exactly the way it should be, but it's pretty close. And essentially, when she touched the ground, she was given the original instructions. And the first instructions that she was given was that she must walk gentle. And when she came down, her feet, it was like her toes first touching, and then her heels came down second, like next. And so she was then on the ground, on Aki, on the earth nation, on the earth element. And there's a word actually in my culture. It's like a phrase kind of, and it's Anishna Aja Bid Modzin. And I'm not probably pronouncing it right. I barely speak Anishinaabe these days. So a lot of these words I may be mispronouncing slightly. But the translation of that teaching is, how are you walking today? Are you walking gentle? And that was like the way the Anishinaabe, our language is, it's very much reflected on, a lot of the creation stories. And so, some of our language actually is based off of like these original instructions, and we carry these words and these teachings in how we communicate. For example, like the Anishinaabe people in our word for Anishinabe, the word the word in Anishinabe, that literally translates to light. And Nishin, that word Nishin means good. The be, the abe part is male. If it was a woman, it would be kwe at the end. Anishinabe kwe. Anishinabe, not Anishna. I forget how to say it. I gotta practice my Anishinaabe more. So the first instruction was for us to walk gentle, and bid madzeb is the way that it was instructed to us in our language. Then we got our second instruction, and the second instruction is respect. Respect all things. There's an actual name for the second instruction's name. It was Mena Den Do Moen. Mena Den Do Moen. And that means respect. And it's not just respecting, the human nation. It meant to respect everything, all life. And because we know that the Gijik, the Gitchi Manitou, the great mystery, because she infused her spirit into everything, it was to make sure that we were always connected to one another. And so it was important for us to know, to acknowledge that and to constantly show respect to one another. And so Winona, after giving these original instructions, began to walk around on Turtle Island. And she began to introduce herself to everybody. She said, "What's up?" to the plant nation, smelled the flowers and started, looking at the different types of medicines, and seeing just the beautifulness of nature. She was really kind person. She's filled with love and kindness from the Creator. So she's going around introducing herself to her family. And while she's introducing herself to each nation, as she goes further and further to the different nations, from one to the next, from the plant nation to the insect nation, to the fish nation, to the bird nation, to the animal nation, she notices that all of them have partners or have duality in them to produce life, like plants having both male and female abilities in creation in their own DNA. And so she realized instantly that she was alone. There was no other Anishinabe there but her. And she tried to entertain herself as long as she could. But after she noticed that she was alone, she just saw balance in all life, and she saw these, she saw the duality and everything. So she naturally just was like, I'm missing something, and started to feel lonely. And the Creator, being connected to all things, noticed this. And so the Creator decided to send Winona, the spirit of the West. Ipang Gishmuk is the strong Western wind the name. And the Creator decided that she would change Ipan Gishmuk into a man and send him to Winona. And so they hooked up, started hanging out, getting to know each other, very respectfully, learning about each other. And one day, Winona was pregnant. And she was pregnant with twin boys. Now, this is really important because everything I've said up until this point has polarity in it, and it's only going to increase now. Now you're going to begin to see how nature is working around you in such a deep way, that this is the facts that science has proven already. But Anishinaabe people have known this for 20,000 years, since the beginning of creation. And we've passed these stories on to each other. Duality is really important to understand because it gives you perspective on where you are at the present moment. And it allows you to understand what's happening around you so that you can see the cause and effect of things, the cause and effect of your choices, the cause and effect of others. And it's really important to be in tune with these teachings, awareness of that there is duality in all life that exists. So now Winona is pregnant with twins, and they're twin boys. So the firstborn son, his name is Maji Quis. I think that's Maji Quis. I think that's the pronunciation. I think maybe Quest, Maji Quest. And that's the firstborn son. And the second son is Mansoon. And Mansoon is like the younger brother, and and he's more of a wandering spirit. And so now that these two twins are alive, each of them had the balance in them infused of life. So one was physical and one was spiritual. One was matter and the other one was antimatter. This is super important. This part of this, all this story is important, but this part of the story, for you to understand duality, it's really important to understand that there's all that balance exists in all of nature. There's always the physical and the spiritual, always. So, like the elements, these two brothers clashed. They fought like crazy, like crazy. They were just tearing it up everywhere. And it actually got really bad, like really bad. The fighting became a war. And Mansoon killed his older brother. The physical killed him. And Mansoon, spirit, realized that it made a huge mistake in that it could not live without its older brother. It couldn't live without the physical. And so it began to fade away. Not die, because it's a part of creation. You cannot die when you're a part of creation. But it faded away and disappeared. So now Winona's alone again. She went through all that just to be alone again. And so out of nowhere, here comes, back the western direction. And his name is pronounced Ipang Gishmuk. Ipang Gishmuk. And when he came back again the second time, they start hanging out again, go out on a few dates. Next thing you know, Winona's pregnant again. And she has another set of twins. And this time, the twins' names are actually really familiar, these names. A lot of people will know. It's Nanabojo and Makwa. I love Nanabojo. Nanabojo actually saved my people from the Indigo, with the Wendigo. There was a Wendigo clan a long time ago, and Nanabojo actually came to my reserve. Well, it wasn't a reserve back then. It was our land, our territory of Nabesing. And he actually saved my people from the Wendigo nation. So Nanabojo is quite a I don't want to say he's not bad, okay? But Nanabojo is a trickster. He's a prankster. He's filled with kindness, but he can't keep himself out of trouble. And Makwa is the opposite. Like Makwa is like a monk walking around and just so balanced and so in tune with his surrounding and all the nations. So Nanabojo would go around causing mad trouble. He'd take the plants and change them around, just causing trouble, man. It's like no one knows why Nanabojo does these things, by the way. He's just a crazy, crazy little guy. And he was little too, by the way. So Makwa would have to essentially fix everything that Nanabojo was doing. If you ever hear Anishinabe people speaking, they'll sometimes say, Ani Nishna, Bojo, or they'll say Bojo to one another. Nanabojo is that word that we're using. Bojo, it doesn't mean anything. Bojo is a secret word. If I were to see you across the lake, and all I can see was your birch bark canoe, and I couldn't really make out you. You were just a silhouette. I would yell across the lake, Bojo! And if you said Bojo back, it means that you were raised with the same values as I was, and you were not a threat to me. So Bojo is a way of us acknowledging one another and connecting ourselves to these stories of Nanabojo. So that means that you were raised with this creation story too. So we're family. Even though we're all related, this was a secret word that the Anishinaabe used to communicate with each other from far. We have another way of greeting, but it's we don't have the word hello. We don't say hi to one another. We say ani. Ani means I acknowledge the light in you. I see the light in you. And I don't know if I mentioned this when Winona was lowered down, but she was lowered down by a light being. And the word Anishinabe literally means a light being, a descendant of the star nation. And we were lowered down where we have that in us, that same light that Gitche, Manitou, the great mystery she shares, we have that inside of us as well. And so when the Anishinaabe people acknowledge each other, we acknowledge the light in one another. So Nana Bojo, he did everything wrong, and Makwa did everything right. More duality teachings. Pay attention because they're just going to keep coming. Makwa basically was like the janitor for Nana Bojo. He had to go around this guy behind him everywhere he went and clean up after him. And you can only imagine, like, I'm the baby in my family and I have a lot of siblings. So I would have been Makwa, and my older siblings would have been, similar to Nana Bojo. Imagine being the youngest in your family and you got to clean up after all the older brothers and sisters. It's like ridiculous, right? It's not fair. So basically Makwa was extremely upset with how Nana Bojo was treating everyone, all the nations. And Nana Bojo really didn't take time to speak with the nations. Nana Bojo just messed with them. There's a funny story about the rabbit and Nana Bojo. There's tons of stories about the rabbit and Nana Bojo. But one day, Nana Bojo decided to step on the rabbit's feet with his feet and grab it by its ears and yank it up. And so that's why the rabbit has the long feet and the long ears, because Nana Bojo just did a prank on the poor little rabbit. One time, the rabbit and Nana Bojo were fighting so much that Nana Bojo was just so upset that he punched the rabbit right in the face. And that's why the rabbit has a split lip. It's because, like, I don't know, whatever the rabbit did got Nana Bojo pretty tempered, and he just decided he had to punch him right in the face. It's just a crazy story. So Nana Bojo was messing around, fighting everyone, and Makwa was like the perfect monk. He's like going around and talking to the plant nation and asking the plant nation to teach him, show me the medicines, show me how you are all living together. And so he went to every nation and he communicated with every single one of those nations. All of the nations shared with them all of their teachings, because that's what their instructions were: to provide nourishment, to provide growth, to provide healing, to provide teachings to all those that follow. So Makwa was a very balanced person. Makwa was what you would consider, enlightened, living in harmony with everything. Nana Bojo was a troublemaker. Makwa was a healer, a medicine person. So the complete opposites, right? Again, polarity teachings. So Makwa decided, you know what? I want to talk to the creator. This is insane. This guy, Nana Bojo, is out of control. He's going around. He's punching rabbits. He's, changing the plants around. He's just causing too much trouble. And Nana Bojo didn't care. He didn't care how Makwa felt. He was just like, just was like, you're going to clean up after me, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And so this is when Makwa was deeply saddened by the reality of what was happening between them. And so Makwa was a very deep thinker. Like I said, he was a monk. This brother was a very deep thinker and wasn't sure how he could ever find a way to get along with Nanabojo. So he asked the Creator, he said, Creator, I need you to help me. I do not want to be Nanabojo's brother anymore. Help me change into something else. And so the Creator handed Makwa a fur, a piece of fur, a big piece of fur. And Makwa basically was, what is this for? What is this? What do I do with this fur? What is this? And he's like, and she, the Creator, she told Makwa, once you put this on, if you decide to, you can never go back. You will never be the same again. So make sure that it's the right choice that you want to live with, because you cannot go back on this choice again. And so Makwa thought really deep about what the Great Spirit had just told him. And Makwa didn't want to be brothers with Nanabojo, but he couldn't let go of it so easily. So because he was such a deep thinker, he decided, you know what, I'm going to go up to Nanabojo and I'm going to warn Nanabojo. I'm going to let him know, hey, man, if you keep doing this, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm not going to be your brother no more, and I'm going to leave you. And Nanabojo was like, see ya. Woo! All this place for me. Makwa was like extremely hurt. Couldn't believe that his own brother didn't care if he was there or not. Didn't see how his brother Makwa was helping him all the time, and just thought that he was invincible. He didn't need his brother. And so his brother decided that he was going to put on the fur. And so what any good brother would do when they're fighting with their brother is they walked away. Because Nanabojo, he'll fight. He'll stand there and keep fighting. But Makwa is much more wiser. Makwa is much more of a deeper thinker. So Makwa said, I just have to walk away from my brother. And so as he was walking away and he got further and further away, he yelled back to Nanabojo and he said, remember me. Remember that we were brothers. Never forget. And he took his hood, he took the fur like a hoodie, and he put it over himself. And that fur attached itself to the body of Makwa. Now, in Anishinabe language, the word Makwa is the word we use for the Bear clan. Makwa Dodom is the Bear clan, or the Bear nation. And Makwa was the first bear. So once they decided, once Makwa pulled that leather over himself, in the history of us Anishinaabe people, we always recognize the bear as our brother, because it's the first humans in our family line, in our tree line. And so we're always acknowledging Makwa as a direct brother of ours. And in Anishinaabe culture, the Bear Nation is actually the healing nation. They're medicine people. So if you're part of that clan, if you're a Bear clan, you're a healer. You're part of that lineage. I'm from the Mayengan Dodom. I'm from the Wolf clan. And I play a much different role in my community. But the Bear Nation is known for its ability to use medicine, its ability to create medicine, its ability to be medicine. But it's also the only animal that communicates with all 6 nations. The bear communicates with the human nation, the insect nation, the bird nation, the fish nation, the plant nation, and the rest of the animals. You can tell because the bear eats everything. It eats everything. It's the only animal that eats everything in Mother Nature. And so now Nanabojo went back to, just causing trouble on Turtle Island, just bothering everyone. Just back to Nanobojo. So Nanobojo began to, after time, miss his brother, Makwa. And he realized he made a big mistake. So Nanobojo went to the creator and asked the creator to please bring him home. And so the creator turned Nanobojo into a star. And that star is the star that's at the tip of the Big Dipper. And the white nation, they call it the Big Dipper, but the Anishinaabe, we called it the Great White Bear or the Great Bear. That constellation for us, it's the bear constellation. And at the tip of the bear is the nose. And the nose, that's where Nanobojo is on the bear's nose. And this is kind of the creator's sense of humor, because Nanobojo missed Makwa so much. He just like, oh, you missed your brother? Here you go. We'll put you right in front of his nose. And so Nanobojo now was with the Star Nation. And if you've ever counted the Big Dipper, there's 7 stars. And so those 7 stars are really important. That number 7 is a sacred number in the Anishinaabe, part of our sacred geometry system of how we understand and translate what's happening in the universe and what's happening to us. So now turns into the 4th day. So that was all in one day, you guys. That was all in one day, all these. So the 4th day now comes, and now Winona is alone again. She's like, so again, the west wind comes back, and Winona had more children with Ipan Gishmuk. And the children are all different this time. And this time she has 4 children. And they were all infused with each of the 4 brothers' gifts before them. Remember I said Nanobojo and Makwa, one's physical, one's spiritual. And remember the brothers before, one was emotional and one was intellectual, mental. And so when the next children, when the 4 children that Winona had, these 4 sons were unlike the other 4, the 4 that just happened in pairs of 2. This time she now had 4 sons. And those 4 sons were a balance of the physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental natures of humanity. And that's the creation of the medicine wheel. That's when the medicine wheel became part of the human nation, because it already is a part of nature. It's the 4 elements. And there are many layers that go with the medicine wheel. But now the connection came full circle. And the human nation was a balance of all 4 of those natures within itself now. So we are born the Anishinabe, which in our society, you are complete when you are born. You have everything you need to survive from birth. So like Western culture teaches us with this empty vessel, like we know nothing, we're born, we're kids. Not at the Anishinaabe, we do not think that way. We know the power of spirit, and we know that spirit can't die. So if you are a spirit and you're part of Creator, that means you are part of the whole timeline of creation from its beginning. So how could you be new as a human being? The only thing that's new about you is your body. The spirit is very, very old. So now that when these children are born, and they're born to be complete, and they have everything they need to survive, they have their own natures within themselves, the nature of their spirit the nature of their emotions, the nature of their body, and the nature of their minds. And Winona lived for a very, very long time. She kept fit. She ate healthy. She worked out. She kept her balance. You know, she lived for a very, very long time. And when she died, she went back to the Creator. Now, this story is important for the Anishinaabe because this story tells us where we go when we die. Because we have a piece of Gitche Manitou, the great mystery in us. And just like our mother, our great, 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 great grandmother, we will go back to the Creator when we die. The word Anishinabe is, because English to us is backwards, the translation is a bit different, but when you rearrange it to English, the sentence itself would, resemble that we are good people of the light. English is such a hard language to translate my language. My language is very sophisticated. So the word like I was mentioning before, or is light. That's the word for light. The word nishin in our word. So if I say Anishinabe, right, I am saying three different words and I'm putting them into one for one description or phrase, and that word it has layers of meanings to it. So the beginning of that word, the is the word for light. And the word nishin, that's the word for good or great, but mostly good. It's like really good, and then the word itself for abe, which is the people, right? Or it does translate to men, but if you were to put kwe in that at the end, it would mean a woman instead of a man. But so the word, our people are, when we acknowledge each other, we acknowledge the light in one another. And that, like I was saying before, we use that word anin to acknowledge one another, acknowledge the light in each other. And, because we are descendants of Winona, we take these stories as the, it's like an education system, this story that constantly is a reminder of how to ground ourselves with the four elements, how to connect ourselves to the 6 nations, how to walk and how to be, how to live here as a human. What does it mean to be a human? Who are we? All these are answered in this story, in this Anishinaabe creation story. In the beginning of the 4 worlds that I just shared with you, according to each world, they were given original instructions. And in the beginning, there was harmony and balance. But the Anishinaabe people, we had other plans. And at some point, we forgot our instructions. And so the reason I tell this story, and the reason this story was told to me, was for us to always remember that we can find balance and create balance by working together. And through the duality teachings and the awareness of polarity, we can understand how we come together, how we balance each other. And it's important that we follow the original instructions of being gentle with each other, be gentle with yourself, but also be gentle with others. See, this is where the duality teachings are really important in terms of how to apply them to yourself, because you always have to go within first, and then you have to go out. And the way you're thinking is what you're going to do is you're going to understand how to truly be able to think in 7 generations, because you're going to be able to think of the future and the past, and you're going to be able to center them within you as in your being. And so you're going to be able to look at the small picture and the big picture very quickly. You'll be able to see it almost instantly. What are the effects if I make this decision today? One of my favorite duality teachings is a saying that in English, it's very popular. What goes around comes around. The Anishinaabe people know that this is a fact. And whatever good that you put out, you get twice back. But you're not supposed to do anything with expectations. You are following instructions in accordance to how we are supposed to live with one another, including all of our relatives that I mentioned in the story today. The way that the Anishinaabe people think is we use 7th-generation thinking because it's important for us to know that our decisions are going to affect our grandchildren's grandchildren's grandchildren. We are not random. We are all here for a reason. Everything is happening for a reason. One of the things that my grandmother showed me at a young age was kindness. A kindness I had never seen in anyone else in my family. Most of the people in my family were not like that. And I never understood how she could do it, how she could be so kind in such a chaotic environment that we lived in, living in Nipissing on the reserve. And she never broke it. She never yelled. I never heard my grandmother raise her voice once. I never heard her yell. I never heard her filled with anger. It just couldn't exist within her. And it was funny because growing up, I had some cousins that were, not so happy. And even they couldn't misbehave around my grandmother because of the energy, how she composed herself with kindness, unconditional love. She used the 7 grandfather teachings. So the 7 grandfather teachings, if you weren't able to take the workshops before, it's a guiding principle system, our value system of how we are supposed to treat ourselves and treat others. The 7 grandfather teachings are love, humility, respect, honesty, courage, and truth. And that is the way that we are taught to treat ourselves and treat other people, including treating other nations that aren't connected to us, like directly through the human nation, but connected to us through their own nation. We are supposed to treat these things, all things, with the 7 grandfather teachings. I was mentioning to you about 7th-generation thinking, and there are a reason why we use these numbers, because you as a human can move in 7 directions. The foundation of the Anishinaabe medicine wheel is focusing on the fundamentals of the 4 elements, but the medicine wheel doesn't stop at 4. The further you dive into your medicine wheel and you center yourself in the center of your wheel and you start to use circular thinking, well, in order for you to fulfill your connection to your circle, you have to add 3 other directions. So we have the 4 directions of the cardinal compass, right? North, south, east, and west. But you also have up, down, and within. Those are the 7 directions. So a lot of the geometry we use, if you see patterns of 7, patterns of 4, patterns of 13, pattern of 28, that typically, if it's 28 with 13, it's a calendar. On the back of every turtle shell, every freshwater turtle shell, there are 13 rings in the center and 28 rings on the outside. That is a lunar calendar that we would use. So the reason, not the reason, but for me, the duality teachings are very deep, and they are a fabric of who we are, and it is embedded in our conscious and our subconscious. When you start to focus on duality, you'll begin to see how everything works. You'll begin to understand the power that you have over your natures and how you're able to use them and work with them. It's not about controlling. It's about working together. And that's what these creation stories with these teachings, the constant reminder is that we're supposed to do good. And when we do good, we'll come together and we'll restore the balance that we are all supposed to be enjoying and living in right now. And that's in balance with nature, connected to all things, and respecting and following those original instructions. I'm really lucky that I grew up around the family that I have. And having these teachings, growing up with them, knowing them, saved my life in so many ways, because I had constantly been told that my culture was, it wasn't with the, it wasn't up to standards with the rest of humanity. And it was very confusing for me to be pressured to be someone I'm not and assimilate myself into Western culture. But these teachings helped me fight to preserve myself until I got to the age where I could no longer need protection from others, but I can do the protecting myself. I can defend myself. Because in Western culture, the strength of controlling and dominating your environment is more well received than someone who would try to protect and defend. Because the status of a warrior is about their ability to create and do violence. The Anishinabe warriors aren't allowed to kill humans. The reason why we were colonized the way we were was because we followed this story. And there are other instructions that I haven't mentioned. And one of those instructions is about it's forbidden to take another life of another human. And if you are from the human nation, it is forbidden. Before the indigenous people of Turtle Island were colonized, we had this entire area populated with beautiful cities, beautiful. The land was beautiful. It was not disturbed. We had agriculture everywhere that all went with nature. We lived in harmony with nature and we found balance. But when Western culture came here, they took advantage of the fact that we could not kill them. And they hunted us down. In the 70s, it just became legal for First Nations people, indigenous people to tell these stories. It was illegal for my mother, for my father, for my grandmother to be Native. So to me, it's a huge responsibility for me to be here and share stories with you that almost went extinct. And I hope that this story resonates with all of you about the importance of all of our nations coming together. And when we do come together, we are capable of things that we can't even fathom. But until we learn how to use love, and until we learn how to respect each other and our differences, then the fighting won't stop. And in this story, you see what happens with fighting, what it always does. There is no good to come out of fighting. It's an extreme honor for me to be here. I've been part of this amazing team, and I've had some very emotional moments, and then I've had some moments like right now where I'm just so proud to be able to have a platform and share a story that was passed on to me. And I never knew that if I would ever get the chance to share this story. This is something that I've just kept inside of me for a long time, and it's my first time sharing it. So thank you for all being part of this experience with me. In my language, we don't say goodbye to one another. We say bamapi. And that's the word for I'll see you later. So I want to thank all of you for your time. And I hope you have an amazing day. I want to send each of you all of my positive energy, all of my love. It is unconditional. And I just hope that you are all safe out there. And I'm looking forward to seeing the art submissions for the project now that these stories are told. My goal was to create a design that was a visual healing experience for all of us. I needed it. My community needed it. The city needed it. And we've been able to, this team was able to construct it and put it together and make it come to life. And now that it's here, I feel like this is only going to open up more windows and doors for us to share with one another, to come together and to show the rest of the world what humanity is really capable of. I travel a lot. Toronto's a very unique city in the world where we are all here from different walks of life, but we all have one goal. I think we all believe in love. We all believe in peace. We all believe in our freedoms. So I'm hoping that this encourages you to learn more. This is just an introduction. There are so many creation stories, so many different stories. The stories of the eagle are great. One of our great relatives, so important for us, the significance of the eagle. In the story, this is a different story. I really don't want to get into it too deep, but in the design, I included an eagle and a fish. There's an old story about the eagle and the fish, and the first eagle didn't have any eyes. It flew by its scent only, but it would fly into things. And it could smell really good, but it's hard to navigate flying through the sky with just your nose. The eagle would be crashing into things all the time. And so one day the eagle asked Nanabojo, hey, I need your help. And Nanabojo is really kind. So the first thing Nanabojo did was create abundance of fish in the Great Lakes. And then the second thing was Nanabojo gave the eagle its eyes, but it gave him the greatest eyes because Nanabojo knew that that eagle would be flying the highest out of all of the bird nation. There's so many interesting stories, and there are so many amazing storytellers in all of the indigenous communities. And there is a protocol that I would love for you to follow if you approach any Anishinaabe people, especially our elders, especially our healers, is always offer tobacco first. Take some tobacco. It could be from anywhere, but take some tobacco. Pray for what you're asking for and put that prayer into that tobacco, and then take a piece of cloth and tie that tobacco in a tie, and it's called a tobacco tie. And really put all of your whatever energy that you want to put into it. But if you have questions, if you have or if you don't even know what you want, but you just know that you need something, some different perspective, whatever it is, put it into that tobacco and then offer it to an elder when you get a chance. And this is the protocol. This is the polite etiquette of how we communicate with one another. See, we use circular thinking all the time. And before you can communicate with the other natures that you have to always start in spirit. And that's why they say tobacco first, because tobacco represents the eastern direction, which is where spirit lays in the medicine wheel. And so this is why we offer tobacco to one another, because we are offering communication in spirit first, because we are spirits having a physical experience. I can go on and on because I love talking about my Anishinaabe culture, but I believe that this is all the time that we have today. I respectfully appreciate all of your time. So I want to say, Che Miigwech, great, thank you. And I hope you all have an amazing day today. Bamapi, guys.
Chi Miigwech, Bamapi.